one's understanding, the kind of view one has reached, the kind of view one has obtained, one uses it by way of now meditating or familiarizing oneself with that particular view. So with regard to meditating now, meditating on an object. So what is the meaning of meditation? Well, to meditate, to familiarize the mind, it is twofold. One type of meditation is analytical meditation, and the other one is stabilizing meditation. And a lot of people think that meditation means stabilizing meditation. They associate meditation with a type of meditation that single-pointedly focuses on something. So focusing on the Buddha's body, for example, focusing on the breathing, focusing on thinking nothing, of not taking anything to mind. So for those types of meditations, a view is not needed. It's not necessary to examine anything, for all one needs to do is to focus on one object. However, with regard to analytical meditation, it is indispensable to examine reality. One needs to examine reality, because otherwise there's no ingredient, if you like, there's no object that one can utilize in order to meditate. There's nothing to meditate on unless one has previously examined reality, or unless one examines reality. So, for instance, Shantideva's Bodhisattva way of life, in that text at the beginning, Shantideva says, I have composed this text in order to familiarize or meditate with one's mental consciousness, or to familiarize one's mental consciousness. So that means that there's something to be analyzed. There's an object one should analyze. That this is taught for the purpose of analysis. So those of us who study Buddhism, there is the phrase that is used in Tibetan that is like meditate on patience. In other words, another way of saying in Tibetan, it's like saying be patient. The way it is expressed is meditate on patience. So that implies, this does not imply that one focuses just on one particular object, that one single-pointedly meditates, but it rather implies that one takes the different reasonings, that explain why patience is necessary, such as the reasonings presented in the Bodhisattva way of life. One looks at those reasons, one learns about these reasons, and then applies them. So there's no space here for single-pointed meditation, but it's rather here meditate on, be patient or meditate on patience means that one engages in analytical meditation.
Ani chegom kadre sena tad namjin chegom di matsugi chegom buchigor tad chedi gyur tad di chegom chesedi tad norne 이 지금 제 고사들 뭐 맞지 현다지도 제시하러 어떤 지금 남준이 제대로 어떻게
So with regard to analytical meditation, well, we actually do that a lot. We do a lot of analytical meditation, except we meditate on the wrong object. So that which we shouldn't meditate on, that which we shouldn't analyze, that's what we engage in. So we don't engage in that which we should analyze. We don't engage in the proper kind of analytical meditation.
베나타미 카시다 세마키고 숙청고 용댕이 되네도 카두 루블 잠마이 자외거라는 굉장히 디상의 제공진 중조를
For example, some people who are always unhappy. Sugina is saying he's not talking about those who are sometimes unhappy, but no, those who are continuously unhappy. Their unhappiness is a result of analytical meditation.
제공 가르치에서는 개인이 더 진이지 태 더그러는 개인 가시지 유지와 다디 태 디연에야도 삼샤 다 말라 텐지 중소 다 마디 용토문도 이치기도 다디 연에 양도 다스 틀에 되나다 아자자 조기 대기 디베 거래 잡셔지세네 안디 콤비 제부들아 아니 다춘 마셔가지 다 뺏사송세 초아 숙침부게 지금 지금 제부디 디다 초아의 숙침부게지
So what is it that those people meditate upon? Well, when something negative happens to them. So that's usually not just one thing, there's more things that happen to them. And then repeatedly, again and again, they think about this. They would think about whatever negative happened to them. So this is what happened to me. I cannot do this. And again and again. And so not just when they're relaxed, when they're just kind of sitting down and they're relaxed, but also when they go back and forth, when they walk, etc. At those times, again and again, they reflect upon these same problems repeatedly. And as a result of that, there's a sense that it's unbearable. There's a sense that they cannot bear this situation. So a very strong feeling arises. So as a result of that kind of analytical meditation, of that analysis, a very strong feeling arises.
디나신 공로 큰진 숙청부기에 두제 제공진 중조 디뒤에 된지 제소 딩외라에 된지 제소 다양 된지 지기도 다 마음번에 된지 제기 그렇지 유사래 뭐 된지기 다 경쟁 먹고는 디 철직려도 검라고 말 양양삼도 검라고 디 양내 양도 거래 잡셔 되잖아요 아니 바라지라 큰 대마도 얘기다 공로 숙청부들이 디 자루와
The same is the case with regard to anger and resentment, when there's strong anger, when there's strong resentment. So this arises from the thought, they have done this to me. They do this to me now. They do this to me repeatedly. They probably will do this in the future. They have the plan to do this in the future. So this kind of anger does not arise by reflecting upon any kind of harm just one time. That is not meditation, but meditating on it again and again and again. Again and again to such a degree that in the end one is not able to stay still. There is such strong anger and resentment, one is unable to remain still, to remain without doing something.
디기 파기 제당디 다가라 제해디다 장ኝ지를 받수 카페 심진디기를 다 저와 제급이 중세 디기들이 니 바꿔야지 딩지 차네 디치고도 디차네 도체네 아니 중세디기리 양내 양도 삼당인데 아니 신의 디 영화 퇴제 아니 저와도 비축적부 바뀌어 야지 다디 아니 제사 점ኝ지로 장이 저와 슈다부기 딩지 닝지 슈다부기 디체 제고매나 또 줘야 그래요 말 조금 장박이 용해 그래요 말 제공부터 연구와
Now, the same procedure here should be now applied. The same procedure as just described should be now applied to one's meditation on love and compassion. So to reflect upon the different reasons, the reasons that are given for being loving and compassionate. Why one should be loving and compassionate. What are the different reasons that are given? And by reflecting and contemplating on them again and again, eventually some kind of experience arises. Some kind of resultant experience, such as love, strong love, will arise. So how can such love arise? Well, it can only arise by analyzing. It will not arise in that natural fashion by engaging in stabilizing or single-pointed meditation. It can only arise independent on analysis.
제산당 어제 냠내 제시들 로르지 민자와 체네 로 리카시지기 당어 좀 내기도 로르지지 딘딘딘 자민제로 소비 로디기디 먼저 펜토고도 이고고도 센터디 바기 가서 오르게니제이션 주도 현사위 제라 단도 도자디기디마 총로 줘야다 수총로 줘야다 로 야고 디기디 수체로 따야 되다 냠내시고로 디지도 전에 초진의 지나 레라부터 지레 로 두자디기 간데 수체를 두고 들는지 다 수수수를 심주지 체니 디파 그긴 디 로야고들 카파베 로야고디기 마게디 양나면 수총을 줘야 돼 가리가리 지기도 어디 그긴 디파 로 두자들 파 카페샤나 다가라님네 현도 다 정말 현도다 그랬다
So then with regard to practice, well, there are actually two types of awareness. There are two types of mind or awareness. There's a harmful type of awareness and there's a beneficial type of awareness. And now with regard to the beneficial types, well, those are the ones we need, such as love, compassion. So those awarenesses we need to generate. And after we examine such, then actually it's not that difficult from the point of view of one's practice. So here one decreases the negative types of awarenesses and increases the positive ones. So this is relatively easy. When negative kind of awarenesses arise, well, one watches those. How do they arise? Why do they arise? How can I decrease them? And then one basically changes them. One changes them in the sense one adapts the positive ones. So then with regard to positive ones, when they arise, how did these positive ones arise? How did I get there, etc. And then again, one makes the adjustments. So in that way, practice is not that difficult.
That is what Yas Chegom said the Tanyachik Latichi, Kumzinjanja Kichimabashe, and the Sanjiku Bombarina, Sanjiku Chizambadi, the same to snare the Chogomche. And in Yang Joe Pare, Sambose, Shang Tindich to Chen Tindich to Utindich to Dilla Chegoms, and Dilla Chegoms mean Daido. Kaji Chegom, the chain of the same chat war.
So this should suffice for a kind of coarse kind of explanation. However, with regard to analytical or talking of analytical meditation, so not only does analytical meditation refer to meditation that relies on reasoning, but there's also another type. There's another type. So for instance, when one focuses on the Buddha image, the image of a Buddha, so there's the type of meditation that is described as stabilizing meditation, where you just focus on the image of the Buddha. But then when you start analyzing in the sense, what does the face look like? What is the arm? What is the body, the face, the head? What does it look like? There's some type of examination here. So basically here one engages in some type of analysis which leads to clarity. So analytical meditation leads to clarity.
제자디 제공디 니 경쟁거야지다 경쟁마거니 세부수에 디니가를 조금 다니 주디 벤더닝지르위나 심지디다 동해기 너츠디 쌈 아니 신의 동해 털나sam이다 로딩지 인디 동해나수 동해나기 도스 나버점이나 삼버점이나 라버도 차려라 자레네 나탄 날루디 레레네 14보진 상당디 다 제공 차루다 되기 산지기 고공해나 아니 젠티도 되라버다시 거기 동해 나탄 날루디 딘딘딘딘 너게 도스 너츠디 레레네 14보진 상당 디세로 치투와 다 디강라 아니 코야만은 시대와도 운동을 미도버레스 지버레스 경쟁도수기 제 도시에도 아니 신의 동에도 탈나 삼일로도 슈타부지게 게토비지 디차거로
That with regard to analytical meditation. So whether you cite different reasons, whether you engage in analytical meditation by way of reciting or citing different reasons, stating different reasons, or engaging in analytical meditation without citing such reasons. So taking the example of compassion. When you cultivate or meditate on compassion, you think of sentient beings' sufferings, the kind of sufferings that they experience, and thereafter you generate the wish that may they be free from those sufferings. So initially one just takes to mind the fact that sentient beings have sufferings. Well, this is coarse, that's just a coarse kind of thought. But then one goes into detail on how sentient beings are suffering, what different kind of suffering experience, what pain and misery that they go through. So one analyzes in detail, one goes into detail with regard to the different kind of painful experiences sentient beings have. So this is similar to analyzing the Buddha figure here that one meditates on in order to engage in single-pointed meditation. So how many eyes what are the eyes of the Buddha figure, what does it look like, what are the hands, etc. So in that way, one thinks in detail, when one reflects in detail about the different kind of sufferings that a particular sentient being or sentient beings experience. And then takes to mind the fact that just as they want to be free from suffering, and they experience these sufferings, so they experience them, I experience them, and like myself, they want to be free from them. And then eventually one generates the wish, may they be free from these sufferings, may they be liberated, may they be free from these types of sufferings.
십사부 삼라 두전에 배나 안에 라와맹이 미지 통보이나 아카코 라와민도 닝제스나 고쇼트 차로 다 양주 십사부 삼단들도 다코 라와민도 안에 코미시기 다 쳐다 간테체고래 디나시 코 칼라 간테소고래 칼라스네 때나 칼라 간테사고래 안에 레레네 삼단나 안체르니지 간테소고래 니지 비스나 야 간테테고래 상주라 간테스토고래 레레네 삼단에 안에 그 강에 세고 차네 인지디 슈치마 게임으로.
So to think or to meditate in detail on the suffering of sentient beings, taking for example a person who doesn't have hands, who is missing his or her hands. So initially the first thought is, oh, the poor person, ninja, or the poor person, he doesn't have hands, he doesn't have arms, or he doesn't have hands. But then we go into more detailed reflection, we engage in more detailed contemplation from the point of view of how does this person live his life? What is it like? How does he take care of his own livelihood? How does he prepare food? How does he eat his own food? How does he cover himself with a blanket at night and removes the blanket in the morning? How does he go to the toilet? So all these kind of detailed thoughts, all these different detailed points, one contemplates them in such a detailed fashion.
디체 되네 다 줘봤어도 전에 다 줘봐 체험해 봤어야 돼 남주정을 무시 간이 숨겨 체험해 봤어야 되라 신라 아니 네버지 동보당 아니 대사마세 아니 배워줘 봐 이거를 숨도
Then from the point of view of conduct, so from the point of view of conduct here, conduct of non-violence or non-harmful conduct. So here there are 2 or 3 different types. As His Holiness usually describes those, he talks about refraining from engaging in harmful actions directed towards others, and the second one, benefiting others, engaging in beneficial actions.
Bena shena tsewa tom lai diye ane gen bena ko se shaba ina nga zengwa na chogo res samdo desam ki tone domba ina di tsewa mi bichuba lai ma res tsewa mi bichuba se di nyingji shizar chi bi tone shena tsewa tomba na shena pema chogo di tsewa mi bichuba.
Now with regard, for example, not killing, refraining from a harmful action such as refraining from killing. If one refrains from killing merely on account of the fact that otherwise one may go to prison, well then refraining from killing does not refer to engaging in non-violent conduct, in other words, engaging in non-harmful actions. But instead, if one refrains from killing, motivated by compassion, motivated by the wish to benefit others, well that refrainment or this refraining from a negative action, that qualifies to be called a non-harmful action or conduct of non-violence.
심지는 세워 제도래 남배기 땡중 인비 사무당네 아니 심지는 야 제어 공부도 다해레스 디송도 하지.
So then the connection
제가
between
보케는 있는 군조가 가르치는 디체요.
So with regard to those two, so now connecting those two, or in other words now with relation to this conduct. So if there is a system, if one follows a system or religious system that accepts a creator God, then the reason for why one refrains from harmful actions is because creator God, one tries to live one's life in accordance with the instructions by a creator God. Whereas from a Buddhist point of view, the reason why one engages in non-harmful or non-violent conduct, the reason is interdependence or dependent arising. So this is the reason for actually engaging in non-harmful conduct. So then independence on the idea or the concept of interdependence, by thinking on that, thinking about that, how does one get to generate compassion? How does one get to compassion?
제와 세디 유비 토네 시리샤비 토네 아니 닝지 장바 라상 세디 바레 용해지 다이나 제와 세디 간데시레 레디 타타지도 슝나로라 제외 뭐 디레스 딘데기 세부기 요마로 센타 제와 세디 다 맞아 나서 섬지유나 송네 디고라 예체나 다 제와 세디 아니 그게 제와 제세 유디 아니 자친구 지대지 제대집이 센치로 도지 제와지세 유대로 제대집이 센치다 제와 이동을 그러 야라 오래된지라는 뜻이라네
기억나는 제와세야 돼요. 정말 전발로 주고요. 직지로 하시다가
제가 그 점차나 파주 뭐부터지 지고라 제가 타지도 컨셉션을 놔두고입니다. 제가 다 얘기 제가 있는 제와세야 돼 제대집이 센치 다 제대 집이 샘디 유럽 시작이 토다 고자신부 지대 제대 집이 유럽 시작이 토다 디 남주르시네면도 다 코테거든 콜 대화 중나스 계제들이도 제외 남주르와 잡아가마죠 코 동네는 맞중나 시대 아니 인지가 파죠 디지디다 디니가로 제외기 시사진 용되는지
근데 sembração do chão de vida
Simba Sambo, Lane, Kajit, Tisera, as in the Jing, Dai Sam Sambo, say,
so so here with regard to compassion, so without talking about compassion initially, it's important to first talk about all the different, to clarify some of the individual other awarenesses that lead to compassion. So one of them is tsewa. In Tibetan it's tsewa. It's sometimes translated as love, but here this wouldn't work. So I asked Geshe-la whether I can use the word kind-heartedness, and Gema said it's okay. Because the word tsewa, or kind-heartedness here, is not the same as love, the way Genla described it. So this kind-heartedness is the basis that gives rise to love, compassion, the special altruistic attitude, and so forth. So what is that kind-heartedness? What is its nature, if you like? What does it actually refer to? Well, this kind-heartedness is in a kind of awareness that considers others to be precious, that finds them endearing, that finds sentient beings endearing. So then again I gave this extra explanation after I asked him which word I should use. So he said it's difficult because in the scriptures there's no real kind of description with regard to kind-heartedness or tsewa, like what is the definition, how is it defined. But it is basically the kind of mind that finds feels close to sentient beings. There's a sense of closeness, and it finds sentient beings endearing. And then when something positive happens to sentient beings, then it leads to love. In other words, to the wish for sentient beings to be happy. And when something negative happens to sentient beings, it leads to compassion, or the wish for sentient beings to be free from a particular problem. So in that sense, here kind-heartedness serves as the basis for the other types of awarenesses. It's a kind of mind that feels close to sentient beings and finds them endearing.
아니 가와라나 야 간지치기나 페이츠와 고된 투부여나 메나 다 가와래도 야 니여라 잘하지 라지 가부중세에 되게 들어와가 도셔가 인지 멤버지 아니 유티라 가와스 데디다 디제에 고된 투부여나 좀 다해도
And then there is delight. So delight in the sense, there's two types. There's delight from
Terenta perché scie di che ci yosa di da Israel ne perché kashi chiore 아니 이 돈에 딱 기자 어저디 이래 기자 시래기 된지 시래.
So with regard to the teachings Geshe-la will give today, as it is known that this teaching has been requested by a group of Israelis.
저도 கொஞ்சம் 마치 남진 나주 장님 시다 인사를 마치 this 돌아가서 장창 시다 인사. 아니 텔레폰에 마치다 페이지 장창 시다래. 다제디 러시아도 차장치 용해 된다. 아니 라반에 지는 맛이
And most of all the Israelis who are here, they have already studied the teachings. They have already received a lot of teachings, so they have studied the teachings to some degree. Likewise, also most of the other people who are here seem to have studied. They have also studied. However, nonetheless, for others listening, here Geshe-la will give a kind of course explanation, starting off with a course kind of explanation. For those who already know what Geshe-la will now talk about, will maybe be a waste of time. So there are three types of receiving an explanation, of receiving teaching. So one type is those who, when they receive something, when they receive a teaching they have already heard before, then they feel there's no real feeling, there's no real taste. Since they have already heard the information previously, there's no real taste for the teachings, hearing them again. So I've heard this again, I heard this before, I've heard this before. But then when asking, what is it that you heard before, there's not really anything that they can respond. There's no real reply. Then there are others who, having heard these teachings already, but merely having heard them, one wants to hear them again, one likes to listen to them again, one likes to contemplate them again and think about them again. The same is the case for reading the scriptures. So there's interest in reading the scriptures again, hearing the same information again.
소수기 신 안디 가르에서는 나베 유대와체 이내 셈을 초라하면 된지 림바지 요대가 다디 다셈을 초라하게 치도 요즘 제대인지 다 공고래 양내용도 로고래 양내용도 다 퇴고래 어떻게 더 기지시나 현찬에 양조 아니 양조신의 유대가 다 칸에 싸버려게 매대와치가 양조신의 유대와치 잘 걸었다.
And then for those there are those who already know, so whatever is being told, there's nonetheless no real feeling yet, no real feeling has arisen. And so in order for such a feeling to arise, they need to familiarize, they need to meditate on these teachings. And so therefore, in order to be able to do that, listen to the teachings, contemplate the teachings, and then familiarize their mind with them. So even though they know already the information, they have already heard those types of teachings from the point of view of the information that is given, but nonetheless, there's something new for them to obtain. There's something new from the point of view of generating a special feeling with regard to what they hear.
Koran kitu yang tisu yang nama shinda potawa ina kata me kishi jire kishi potawa yin se yue tingi da Koran zala cheshu wa tuwa ala niga ita kitu mogo ya timu ane kitu tisu la kishi tidi ane kebar kardus tichu di ane kishi potawa zala chardi semla penche wa dus di shirwa kari ina samne Korangi Koraya char ne ma pedi zane kallar sana mar ma shinya ji shinya ke mi dus ne kar mar ma goya ji ko ju dus korala sabal la ke mi wa ji la ya ko pendo ji chong sarwa tanda la di.
So at the time of the Kadampa masters, there was one great Kadampa master who was a great master who had a lot of disciples. And at the same time, there was another great Kadampa master. So Geshe-la says he thinks it must have been Geshe-Potowa. So basically, those two masters had a lot of disciples, had a lot of students. But one of the students of Geshe-Potowa, he said to the other Kadampa master that when he goes to receive teachings from Geshe-Potowa, there's a difference. There's a difference in terms of gaining more understanding. So the other Kadampa master was thinking, oh, how is that these teachings are more beneficial? So the disciple said Geshe-Potowa's teachings are more beneficial in that way. So the other Kadampa master was curious, and so he went to one of the teachings of Geshe-Potowa. And in response to receiving the teachings by Geshe-Potowa, this Kadampa master said, well, there was nothing new that he explained, but I gained new understanding. So in other words, from the point of view of information, he didn't hear anything that he hadn't heard before, but in terms of his understanding, in terms of his comprehension, he found these teachings very beneficial, he found them beneficial.
Jamur Machigi, Tarma Busung de Gre, Namji, Nacho Mote Nandu, Nabe Shun, Shibi, Tacha, and then Yingbuta with the Karesana, Tawa Tanchon, Chivasewa Pares. Tati, Kapchila, Tati, Lord Allen, Mata, the Tidulola Sims, what in the Sun, Takache, Tom Titinichi, Tarma, Butika, Tom Japchit, and Sunangur.
So with regard to the topic Geshe-la will teach today, so regarding that topic, this is something that His Holiness the Dalai Lama has taught many times when he gives introductions to Buddhism. He oftentimes gives this particular topic, which is the view of interdependence and the conduct of non-violence, or the conduct of no harm. So here, this is something we need to really perceive with our mind. We need to apprehend with our awareness again and again. Those two, the view of interdependence, or the view of dependent arising, and non-harmful conduct. So, with regard to His Holiness giving a teaching on those two repeatedly, and giving a short explanation on the meaning of those repeatedly. So, this is something we need to obtain here, and something we should think about again and again. We should also reflect upon this again and again. And Geshe-la will give an explanation or a teaching on this to the best of his ability. So those of you who received many teachings from His Holiness, then you have heard these teachings. You have received, just as Geshe-la has received these teachings many times. And so then it is possible that we discuss them with one another. Discuss those teachings with one another.
Tatandu page Tawada Chevani Songre, Tigana Neve Javaina, Namjia, Tawagum Chesums, Tawa, Gomba, Chevas, and to Sum, Tawada, Gomba, Chevasum, to Soyuri.
So with regard to those two, they're described as the view and the conduct. But then there's another way of including those two and adding another aspect, which is described as the view, familiarity, and conduct, or the view, meditation, and conduct.
당에라 아니디 다 가르스고레 사바이나 야티 시덴디 하고 보디 타와세 카스타와 텐중세 에딜라 아니 니송제 준제기 텐중다 아니 테네타비 텐중세 니송고레 마체.
So for those of you who are new, who need some kind of foundation, so when we talk about the view here, the view of interdependence, well, that is usually described to be twofold. Interdependence on causes and conditions, and interdependence from the point of view of being imputed independence, being dependently imputed.
라기 차시를 때네 따봐 다시를 때네 따봐 다지버리 때네 따비 텐중세다 아니 민경 따여정기 텐중세지 니송도.
And then from the point of view of interdependence with regard to being dependently designated or dependently imputed, that is again subdivided into two. So dependence on parts, or being imputed or designated independence on parts, and being designated independence on the basis of imputation, or being mere name, being merely designated, being mere name, being mere terminology.
디치디 민경 따여정기 텐중라디 디 민점이 따여점이 텐중아 이바 텐지라나 텐중이 여체와서 게르기 말와 텐중기 여체죠 기적이 차기 말와 디라디 텐서디 기적시고디 다 다시를 때마스 지다 지디에니 도치기 똑바로 때마스 기적시고 민경 따여정기 텐중세.
So if we only talk about being mere name, being merely imputed, well, there's no way to subdivide that into two unless one differentiates between being dependent on two different factors. So when something is mere name or merely imputed, it is dependent on the imputing conceptual consciousness, and it is dependent on the basis of imputation.
다야 텐중의 예와 체당의 아니 송체 아니 규진기 텐중 다시를 텐기 텐중 평진 대비 텐중 도스야 예와 체당지 요초바.
Then there's another way of categorizing dependent arising. There's another way of categorizing dependent arising. One is dependence on causes and conditions. One is dependence on the basis of imputation or imputation. And then the third one is interdependence, being dependent on one another, being dependent on each other. That's the third type.
텐중 숨디 바게 로랭이 보용의 치도 아니 디벨로스링기 교환께 발전하고라이 베르주지 숨을 땡기도 신도 마르보 쳔부디스 신데 마르보 쳔부디스 다티자네 텐중 숨디 다다 리그레스 그래서 신데스 다바게 제부치 규진 때문에 마르보스도 코 카도 마르보 인자 마르보스 자신의 때문에 다버체 쳔부르도 코를 충원을 때네 쳔부치 신데 마르보 쳔부디스도 텐중 숨디 다다 레어야지.
So with regard to this latter threefold division of dependent arising, in order for us to arise clearly to the mind, to become clear to the mind, Geshe-la remembers one master from Drepung Losseling, one great contemporary master from Drepung Losseling called Geshe Pandentawa. He gives the following example. He gives the example of a red big fruit. So red, big fruit. From the point of view of being a fruit, just being a fruit, that indicates that it's a result, that it's arisen from the point of view of dependence on causes and conditions. So this is a resultant state that has arisen in dependence on its own causes and conditions. From the point of view of being red, well, this is its part. It's part of it. It's one of its qualities. It's a part of that fruit And dependence on that part, one imputes the color red, one imputes red on that fruit. And then lastly, the size, being a big fruit, well, that is in dependence on something smaller. So this interdependence between big and small, that is expressed here, the bigness of that fruit, that pertains to the last of the three types of dependent arising, the interdependence or being dependent on one another.
다 균제기 된중에서도 귤을 되는 게와 대다 규칙이지만 귤은 게 망보 초과를 때네 중대바 뒤지 등지 된제에서 다 뒤지 균제기 된중.
So with regard to the first type of dependent arising, dependence on causes and conditions, this is saying that conditioned phenomena, impermanent or conditioned phenomena, they arise from causes. So they do not arise merely from just one cause, but from many causes and conditions. There's a collection, there are numerous different causes and conditions that give rise to a particular phenomenon. So this pertains to the first type of dependent arising.
제자다 균제기 규신 동안 초과를 되는 게 시디선에 딜레다 14부진 기제시나 규면이 게나 아마티와 가르레 교양 가디요레 아니 귤레 개발의 차선에 규칙랑 되는 개발주나 교양 가디요레 디창마를 내지 통 아니 신의 규진 동안 초과를 되는 게 세는 시디니 고와.
So now with regard to something dependent on being dependent on causes and conditions. So in order to understand that something arises, of an impermanent or conditioned phenomenon arises in independence on a collection, on numerous different causes and conditions, well, now what we need to understand here is, or what is in connection to that, there is the misunderstanding that phenomena may arise causelessly. So when one reflects upon the fact that phenomena cannot arise causelessly, one reflects upon the faults, the logical flaws of something arising causelessly. And likewise the flaw of something arising from merely one cause, one reflects on those faults. And in dependence on that, one then generates ascertainment, one finds ascertainment with regard to the fact that phenomena arise from many causes and conditions.
다들 따와 된중 기제시에 인자 된중이 따와 기제시기디 다디 된중 힘바디 발제시 점마 힘바지 삼수수랑이 삼다지 아니 뭐 감지지리 있는 따지 디 규진 다 규진 된중이나 디 규진 동안 소발 때네 얘기도 민도 규진 가리도 치다 남기 뭐 올라가서 삼다 공지 제제 수수 제외 삼다다 보라 간다 가인의 참마 아니 규진의 때네 깨대버지 레도 규진 동안 소발 때네 깨고 레도 세기 따당데 수수 센나로 레버지 소고라 디디 주나 따와세 차도라.
So here in this respect, talking about those three types, in this respect we talk about the view of interdependence. So here saying that all conditioned phenomena, they have arisen dependently. They are dependently arisen phenomena. So in other words, it is crucial to reflect upon the fact that phenomena depend on different causes and conditions, on a collection of causes and conditions. So to think about what are these causes and conditions, internal causes and conditions, external ones. So this is something from the root, from basically the root idea of this. We need to reflect on this, we need to contemplate this. So this is really the case, to come to some kind of awareness that reaches this view, that in other words, that obtains the view that phenomena depend on many causes and conditions in order for them to arise.
다 된중 계제시요 되잖아요. 직전에 디차루로 나베기 백신 주체용도 리버시시 인테비리고 자와지비리고 아니 가서 춘이기리고 어디디 춘이스는 라랑기다 매차와 매일랑 신세기 된지기 춘이체 아니 자와지바 매디기 자와가지 싸기 감기 자와 가르치고도 오버간다 가인은 제간다 가인 자와 가르가는 지기도 다되는 나의 셰바이나 셰바 코랑기 라신 세정 식정기 라신 또 다든지 셰바기 나세도 마체네 리미타와 같이도 리미타와 다 자다 가세 자다 중요한 개와 시고로다 중간미다 수티고이나 디게 레레기 제대 가르 지기도 다 치료로이나 사주면 롱시도 소리 디수기 제대 가르 지기도 디게 자와지비리고 다다다 디수 다다 땡중 계지시에디 다 되비리고 나 쪽으로 봐 지기지를 들어 가래도 지기지를 가르스 되기도 되비리고 디 시의 샤비 토네 네 신의 딘시리고 비주 당제 다 딘디이나 디인고 그래 그랑신 딘디지 인디 다 딘디지 인고 그래 세야다보다 그 딜을 때 사주잖아요 다 용다 딘디지 용고 그래 세야다보다 딘디기 최고 제목도 딘시리고 잡으러
So when we talk of interdependence or dependent arising, in particular with regard to the Buddhist teaching, from a Buddhist point of view here, there's said to be kind of four types of reasoning, so 4 types of aspects. The first one is the aspect or the reasoning of dependence. The second one is that of activity. The third one is that of suchness or nature. So those are the first 3. So first Geshe only explained those 3. So from the point of view of the nature here, suchness or nature, let's take, for example, when taking the example of fire, the nature of fire is heat. From the point of view of activity of fire, well, whatever activity fire engages in, whatever activity fire is associated with, such as heating up a room, burning, etc. Then from the point of view of dependence, well, that relates to the dependent arisen, to the fact of having dependently risen, having dependent on causes depending on causes and conditions. So those are the 3 factors, the first of the 4 factors, and then the last of those 4 reasonings or 4 aspects is the reasoning of a syllogism or a correct reason. So in other words here, and I'm running out of words in English here, so that basically means, that refers to the fact that if the first 3 are fulfilled, so dependence, activity, and nature, then in dependence on that one can infer by way of correct reason that a phenomenon exists as such and such. This is what the phenomenon is. This is how it exists. This is how it is widely known, and so forth. So those are these 4 aspects, 4 types of reasoning. The first one, dependence, activity, nature, and correct reason. So here, therefore, what one does is one examines reality. So reality is this and this. And then after one has established reality, so this is how phenomena exist, then with regard to external phenomena, one engages in certain tasks. One engages in specific something, or one gets a gift. In that moment, the delight here is a type of feeling. But then there's another delight, in other words, liking someone. So here, liking someone. So in the first case, the liking is this feeling when one gets a gift. It's more like a feeling. And the other one is liking someone. So that is different. It kind of connects to kind-heartedness.
용기 잡아기 제디 시에바이나 산제리 미비 잡아내 거. 대화도 텐디기 시에바이나 산기 대화도 되는 주지 동네다 전에 텐디기 제디 레이마로다. 다 용 잡아기 시에 산제리 미비 다 잡아내 거.
So, for example, in the scriptures, when we talk about love, love is described to be twofold. One love is described to be the love that wishes for others to have happiness. whereas the second one is described as affectionate love. So with regard to affectionate love, there is love that focuses on the Buddha. In other words, there's affectionate love with regard to a Buddha. There is no love that wishes for a Buddha to be happy. So therefore, the first type, wishing for someone to be happy, is not directed at a Buddha, but affectionate love is.
다 간단해요. 다 그게 대화다 테나세기 잠바다 동에다 테나냐 민지디 계다 얘라 아니 콜레야 이동와 지고레스 그게 제대기 셈치 깨고 거래 제대 셈에나 안디 민지다 잠바디다 깨고 말이 아니 경제 가르에서나 아니 수수기 잘라 동에요 보통 뒤전에 단뒤에 가기도 왔어 제가 삼다 파샤 아니 큐니티 보면 인기 딘디나 가셰라 아니 그게 동에 요나요 가르쳐나 좀 그게 장난냐보다 대단냐보 가야 얘기면 와 아니 수수기다 가고 있어들라 제와 있어들라 안 동에 통은도 장난냐보게 뒤에 제와 같이 숙치어 예비사기 동에도 통은도 안 동에 장난냐보다 숙치어 얘기도 디기 통에 아니 가르에서는 인지다 잡아친구게라 아니 그게 얘라 제와 디게 보도록 있은 거
Now, with regard to the wish for someone to have happiness, or the wish for someone to be free from suffering, so in the case of love or compassion, in order for any of those to arise, affection needs to generate affection in one's mind. There needs to be a sense of endearment. One finds the other person endearing and feels close to this person. The reason for that being that, for example, if there's someone one doesn't like, someone one calls an enemy, a person one dislikes, so that person experiences suffering and problems, actually one will enjoy this, one will rejoice in that, one will like the fact that this person experienced problems. Whereas on the other hand, a person one doesn't know, one has no relation to. So with regard to that kind of person, whether they experience suffering or they experience happiness, one doesn't care. One is totally indifferent with regard to their happiness or their suffering. However, with regard to a person, where there's a sense of kind-heartedness, there's a sense of closeness, one feels close to that person, well, or affection, one has some kind of affection towards that person, then when this person experiences problems, one wishes this person to be free from those problems, from those sufferings, and instead wishes this person to have happiness and joy. So, therefore, this indicates, this indicates that in order to generate the wish for others to be free from happiness, or to have happiness and to be free from suffering, in order for that to arise, one needs to first have that kind of kind-heartedness, that kind of affection.
디르디다 제와지에 답시 같이 지어버려. 다시네 디데 물어. 이지다 잡아야고 제야다 잡아치고 얘를 제와지고나 제와 같이 지어버려. 아니 제와기 다 도초 다 거북이 시에버니 디도초 미가와 차도로. 저는 미가와 차도나 야 마가와디 같이 쓸 거래. 다 마가와를 리미지 요초를 땡겨. 견통이 마가야지. 아니 콘도산이 마가야지. 다 딘디기 마가와디 같이 쓸 거래.
So now, therefore, it is clear that first there needs to be this kind-heartedness, and the fact now what we need to deal with is how do we generate such kind-heartedness, that closeness, that affection. So what are the methods, the means to generating this? So in order to this kind-heartedness, this feeling of closeness, then giving rise to great love, to great compassion, and so forth. And then the opposite of this liking or this kind-heartedness, liking others or having a kind-hearted attitude with regards to others, the opposite of that is not liking someone. So how do we overcome this dislike with regard to another person? How can we overcome that dislike? And again, this dislike, Geshe-la says, is twofold. There is dislike that arises due to seeing faults in another person. And then there is dislike due to anger, due to resentment or anger with regard to another person. So the question that arises is how to overcome that dislike.
다 디제도 전에 아니 녀라 다 거기 제와치니 심pen기 셈디 게 신라 제와치니 심pen 주비 토네 아니 편도 거리요레스 다 디게디 인 섬로야고 담바이나 디기 단 된세 담보들 편도 담보 디기 섬로 야고 담토바이나 디기 인 신의 제와 공지 당에다 제와 공매다 도나리기와 제와 공매도 땅고 얘기 땅고 고도 시얘기 이 섬로들 레토레
So then first, with regard to this kind-heartedness, so from the point of view of benefiting others, so how does it benefit oneself? What is the benefit of kind-heartedness, of that feeling of liking others, of feeling close towards others? So if one thinks well about these benefits, etc., then one will be able to familiarize oneself with that kind of kind-heartedness. One will generate an interest in familiarizing oneself to the degree that one feels, I have to familiarize myself, I have to generate this kind-heartedness.
제산되기 제공체래디 더 신체버지나 더 디텐제기 상로 차도로 신체버지나 편도 가리요레스 될 때네 지부 가리용 그레스 레디다 텐제 상당 걸 제산다 디 텐제진의 편도 연구도 텐제 편도 연구도 전에 가수 멍멍 파게 쇠제 디 양내 양도 셈 상당인데 신의 다 신체버진 고고도 세계에 숨쉬게 게임으로
So here with respect to analytical meditation, well, reflecting upon the necessity of cherishing others. So what are the benefits of that? If I cherish others, what are the benefits? What is the result of cherishing others? So that takes us in the direction of dependent arising, of like the causes giving rise to certain results here. So if I benefit, if I cherish another person, this will be the result, that will be the result, and so forth. So reflecting upon this again and again, it will become clear, one will have clarity with regard to the fact that one should practice, one should engage in this practice, and some kind of determination, some strength of mind is generated in one's mental continuum.
디네 편도 니버 디상로야고 담바이나 편도 담보제 편도지 가리어레스나 아니 텐제 요소래 먼저 참아지고 인기래 마도이나 뭐 고대 인자 신변지역으로 저 뭐 고대 인자 제고 삼아지 레이더 제가 저도 무슨 제가 저도 다 뒤에는 양말을 줘라도 뒤가대도 왜 되거라 무이저지는 제가 저는 양나가지 모르세요 야 뒤제가 저는 말로 좀 제 뒤지 쇼트도 세야 저 뒤에는 말을 강에 나기도 세야 저보다 간제 말을 줘라도 세 삼도 시고 가는다 진짜 신변 중에 얘네 소소를 편도 제디 무슨 신의 편도 조용히 되기 쉬어다 소소를 편도 가리가리 용기여버디 삼도 야구지 커트나 말이 좋아라기도 세 삼도디 다 같이 자도록
So then, from one side, so one has thought about the benefits of cherishing others, but then from another perspective, we need to think of the benefits from another perspective, and we're all the same in that. So usually we've heard about benefiting others, about having to do this, how it's necessary to benefit others so often that there's an awareness that arises, I need to do this, I need to benefit others. But when it really comes down to it, when there's actually a situation one needs to benefit another person, or when one has the opportunity to benefit another person, then one reflects upon the disadvantages one may experience by benefiting someone. So if I give away that money, I won't have any left. So they'll be unable to give away money, for example. Or if I help that person, I won't have time to study. I won't be able. I'll waste my time from the point of view of not being able to study, or I will not get something, and so forth. So I will get problems, etc. So in that sense, we reflect upon the disadvantages. We reflect upon the disadvantages we may experience, we personally may experience as a result of helping others. So therefore, when one reflects upon the benefits of just the benefits in general of cherishing others, one also needs to one needs to reflect upon the benefits that one personally will experience in order to overcome this above mentioned worry that one have, that one misses out on something, that one experiences some kind of disadvantage. So in order to overcome that sense, it's important to also contemplate the fact that one personally will reap benefits from cherishing others.
다 한도 숨바디 가리오레세나 신체버스 마시네미도 잠닝지 시네미도 디기 에네 라운다 신지다 게 참마다 한도 친구 여버지 바게 하고 차이 제라 텐지기 전바다 닝지디 셴라데는 계기도 신심진데메나 잠닝지메나 디 제국이다 라운다 신다 지 디기데 탐지 메스 도 삼도 디기 토네 니 신심진 하라 자친구 시부 임버지 통대야지 다 디테스 칼리 하고도 인서 같이 디 용고요 디 중수는 삼도 다가란 게 토네 아니 신체부 진고부도 심심시게와 마세 신의 진진정신 게임이다.
And so with regard to the third benefit here, so first of all, thinking of the fact that by cherishing others, one will be able to generate love and compassion. And it will be beneficial to oneself, it will be beneficial to others. It will be beneficial for others in general, and will be beneficial on a private basis, on a personal basis. So having reflected upon all that, thereafter what one also reflects upon is the fact that due to others are so precious, because without others one would not be able to engage in the practice of cherishing others. And so without being able to engage, so therefore without others being unable to engage in that practice, one would also not be able to engage in the practice of love and compassion. And if that weren't there, well then one would not be able to gain the resultant state of entering the path and reaching the different kind of spiritual attainments. So in that sense, without others, one would not be able to spiritually progress. And in that sense, seeing the preciousness of others, one understands the preciousness of others. And as a result of that, not only is there the sense or the attitude, I have to cherish others, there is naturally, the wish to cherish others will naturally arise in one's mental continuum.
아니 칸엘라메 데스라레요레 대단냠도 다 편도 디게디 잠닝질 때문에 중 잠닝지 디게디 승전을 때문에 중스 다 승제면은 잠닝지메 디면은 데라 때문에다 편도메 라보르도 산지기 제시는 다 승제면은 잠닝지메 디면은 산지에메스 딘지기 제로치 랍싱기요레 미레 라기요레 아니 삼로 코르기요레 이네 신요말 너무 무지ring당이 디시에마스 아니 바기 차치 바기 야도 모조치니 디고를 여성의 땅들에 갑시다 아니 신의 당원에를 세지 심지어 디게 되면은 정리지면도 제사 디면은 디기 표현다 산지 도배다 내가 표현다 두 참을 용해면도 심지어 디게 아니 디기쟁이 뭐뭐 심지어 디를 샤서면 너무 매질 신의 하고 저 되게 내다에 신찬이 그 양주 신에도 세비들다 칸데 납신교를 미래 납사에 뭐고 대치제는 알아지고 쩌자면도 가르스나 단다티 가상만 기현도선 다와기 기주지 로틴주 가제리 지레도 정말 지대는 쉬서 거기 대신 이 송주도 니 디체네 니 때라때네 아니 자두제 자친구 이미 전화다 심지어 상황까지 친구 이미 전화 디메나 아니 산제 도움도 대리 소화 계속선이야 쉬서 진짜 권하다 로숨시 모두 잘 얘기하래 그때도 같이 가고 싶어서
Now, with regard to this in particular here, so benefiting others, so therefore, Ishala says he himself, taking him himself personally, so he has heard the benefits of love and compassion repeatedly. He also knows how to explain, he can explain all those benefits to others. so that the fact that love and compassion, they arise in dependence on others. So in dependence on others, love and compassion arise, and love and compassion in turn give rise to the Buddha, which is why without other sentient beings there wouldn't be love and compassion, and without those there wouldn't be the Buddha. So therefore the Buddhas are possible because of sentient beings. So Geshe-la says, I say that and I teach that, but Geshe-la says it took him many years to really understand that. So although he was able to speak about it, he was able to understand this intellectually, etc. But it took him, he says, several years until one day he felt that is really the case. It is really true that it's because of those sentient beings, this particular person, of those sentient beings, one's own spiritual attainments are possible, the happiness and so forth of spiritual attainments, all that is possible because of sentient beings. So he had this really strong sense that this is true with regard to another person or with regard to sentient beings. And Geshe-la said that, well, maybe it's because, well, this is an example, he said first, this is an example of where you know something, but there's something even more to be known. So you initially have some understanding of something, but there's even more of a way in which you can know something. And Geshe-la said, well, maybe he's just a little slow with regard to gaining this type of understanding, because as His Holiness said during one of his teachings, that one of Genro Zendawa's students, he reported to His Holiness when he heard about this idea, this idea of sentient beings being precious, that he actually generated a real feeling of the preciousness of sentient beings, that love and compassion depending on sentient beings, and so that therefore sentient beings are very precious. So Genro said, well, this person probably only studied the Dharma for 3 or 4 years, and still this person had such a strong feeling. It was a 70-year-old man, apparently, who approached His Holiness with regard to this. And Genro said, but he personally found this difficult. It took Genro a little longer. He said this personally was difficult until he gained that understanding that sentient beings are precious.
다 거기 subject으로 좀 잘해. 다 디시더 샤비 토네. 다 아니 상인이 다 시에 삼아 디시더 샤비 토네. 다 봐. 시에 돌행진을 줘야 돼.
So this is kind of basically the basis. With this, Genro has established the basis, on the basis of which Genro will tomorrow, the day after, and so forth, continues his teachings. On this basis, based on this foundation, Genro will continue and expound, and we will discuss continuously based on this.
당원주 사마테테마다 뭐지? 녜다. 멤버다 보티다. 개와마치 타바 산제 고방 기제 매비 토네. 기제 시고에 딩예르 시. 디 차수나 진에니 개와마치다 제는 최단 제네 나오라. 디니 슈르진 요 체샤나 야사르 딩.
So therefore, it's a good idea to not mix up the sequence here. So to not mix it up. In other words, to first talk about what Genro started to speak of today. So go into this more instead of now talking of past and future lives, liberation, and so forth. So to give you a good foundation, and then thereafter, then to continue on to talk about past and future lives, and so forth.
다 최대만 저기 토네다 점인지 간지스 이렇게 단 거래. 신의 집에서는 벤도 가리요래. 아니 콘도다 미가오디 간지스 거래. 다 되게 섭지대 차상 집하게 최대만 저기 토네. 이게 제지.
So therefore, with regard to how to generate love and compassion. So without any connection to the Buddha Dharma in particular, just in general, to give an explanation of how to generate love and compassion. What are the benefits of cherishing others? How to overcome or weaken anger and so forth. So the previous explanation, that basically pertains to giving you a presentation of these topics, not related in particular to the Buddha Dharma, just kind of in general.
다 당고 아니 신체부터나 아니 펜도 가리요를 소소라. 다디 계시더라 소소다 지다 신다 아니 펜도 간테시요레스 다디가는 무슨 계시시나.
So to start off with, well, what are the personal benefits when one cherishes others, with regard to cherishing others? Let's start with what are the personal benefits we experience when we cherish others?
제산타 디치디 딜라니 간디슬라고다 신뱅이 셈참 잠바다 닝지다 데디기 셈데 지게용나 기디 여기 동네데 제나 코 동네다 제나 코 기부 중나스 파팅 거데 기부데 초대입니다. 하나 셈파를 깨버도 기부 자루다 딱코 두자 자루 제나 파기 콩도사 디지온데 딱 제해디 코 두자 자루 제나 팅거데 뭐 기부 자루 제나 팅거데 다 깨버 다가라는 수습 초입니다. 뭐 기부 그 남사 차입니다. 다디 수습 요해 줘대 지차대로.
So when we think of, so how does it benefit us? How does cherishing others benefit us? So when these types of awareness, such as love and compassion, when they arise as an awareness in our own continuum, at the time when we think with regard to another person, so when they have suffering, so when there's suffering, we want them to be free from that suffering. Or when they have happiness, we are happy about them having that happiness, and so forth. At that time, when those thoughts arise, wishing someone to be free from suffering, for example, or wishing someone to be happy, oneself is happy. Whereas on the other hand, one experiences oneself happiness. Whereas on the other hand, when out of anger, one wishes for another person to have unhappiness, one wishes for another person not to be happy. As a result of that, although it's directed at the other person, so the wish is for the other person to be unhappy, but oneself experiences unhappiness. In that moment, one's peace of mind is disturbed, and the mind has an unpleasant experience.
제나 신치기 다 신진진 공배도 땅제 아니 신 참마도를 미참마도를 이도에 나와지 차가 있나 제제제 생기 깨트가 있나 아니 콜때 어중은 통인 수스sem 기부여 아니 디치디잖아 아니 셈 기부 용의 고모부 빼먹고 차로다 신티메나 수소도 야부 중나 아니 기부여래 티메나 기부 용의 시민도 다 단다 신 참마도 제와 차용도 전에 다 거야고 차샤 야고도 선 가다 제네 다 구바라는 거지 같이 기부도 다 거야고 좀샤 거야인데 좀샤스 되게 기부 용의 그 고시 뭐고시 유행이지 다 디메나 어린이 디단지도.
Likewise, with regard to cherishing others, so in order to increase one's other cherishing attitude, in order to increase it, one sees others as attractive, as endearing. One feels close to them, and then when something good happens to another person, when they experience happiness, oneself also feels happy. So one has a lot more happiness here, because usually if it's only one's own happiness that one feels happy about, well, there's just one basis, on the basis of which one can experience happiness. Whereas in this case here, again, says there are many doors, there are many entryways to happiness, because there's so many people, so many beings whose happiness one can rejoice in. So in other words, there's much more happiness, there's much more rejoicing, much more happiness in the sense that there's so many beings whose success, whose happiness one can be happy about. So this is a way in which one experiences more happiness.
차도제요나 코야고 중어 돈을 기부요 말 도정으로 콜라는 내에 마기비 고모 자르다 다야 코티시스 아니 딘냠도 셈마 기부제 아니 칸에 담들 라고네 근데 차도지잖아요 마기비 자르고도.
So on the other hand, if there is no cherishing of others, if one doesn't cherish others, then jealousy and competitiveness arises. So when the other person has some kind of success, one feels unhappy. So one experiences the disadvantage, one experiences disadvantages oneself. Oneself experiences only disadvantages. There's no benefit of that. In the sense that one gets unhappy, and then one has to engage in all sorts of talk. One has to say a lot of things. One is kind of forced to say all sorts of things out of that competitiveness, etc. So there's just no benefit.
지산다 단다 시행의 진진의 유의나 엔틴디도와 가서 이 때문이나 데리도 되게 시에진 dur치니 부부디 야 안기라와 다 디자바이나 게다지 무차고 아래 부부디 아니 배샤 뭐라고 알아 지산다 되게 잡았다 디치디잖아 나 미세나는 데린데 니 기ව 총마서다 빨라들다 제가 부부 야 차선다는 코라 뺀미스는 깊이 차르거든. 이 가르스는 코라 제와야 돼요. 다 코라 제와 명행이 코라기 부부들이 더 접을 텐들나도 유행 가시 다 센트로되기 방고 되고 더스는 바지고 차되기. 다디 제와 있는 힘을 쇼르거든. 자 디나 신지는 최선지 참아도라 스시 부부는 신지 제와지 도로 지나다 딱히 도그레 말에 간직이 벌써 쉬우르 계제제. 계지 도가이나 심지 되게 용어 통하는데 기분 좀 빠서서 같이네. 또 기분이 좋아야 서로 코트에 연대기로. 스스 내체리 개와 나오러다. 스스 내체리 개와 나비다. 뭐 등산기 제시해봐이나. 다 스스 부부디 개혁이 승진도 차나 밤마다 다 스스 승진 차를 하고 가나요 그러다. 디소로 치기다 미디게디 나도이나 승진 차도에 말아. 다 제와이나 제와이서 미디에 승진 차나 나디나 신가나요 그러. 다 먼저 취하게 제시해봐이나. 다 미지 산계보다 산계 야부차도 된데 통 니스고 통 대중바이나 다 나라 산계에서 가던 레무라다 제가 뭐네 레나 진짜 스스 내체리 계획 가능 게 되지.
Also affect your dreams. So that should suffice. So let's leave it for today. So we'll meet again tomorrow at 1:30 here at same place. Well, probably on TV or is that in a movie, but basically there was a song competition, and there's one girl. She was able to win this kind of song competition, and in the end she became very famous and received a lot of money. And when one of the journalists interviewed her father, he said this is the happiest ever that his daughter was able to win this competition. So it wasn't him who won the competition, but because he has love for his child, therefore he was able to rejoice. He was happy with regard to the success of this other person. So in a similar way here, if we have love towards others, then whatever kind of success they have, then we will be able to rejoice. We will be happy. When we feel close to others, we will be able to rejoice in their success. So everything, whatever happiness their others experience, we will also go in that direction of experiencing that happiness. And that goes beyond our own measure of happiness, in the sense that Gela says he himself, for example, that in some cases it will even be that one will be more joyful than the person who has actually experienced a particular success. And also with regard to this girl early on, so with regard to this girl, if someone like a friend of hers doesn't like the girl or doesn't like her success, this person may feel like, oh, this jerk, she made the first position, that's just terrible, and feel very unhappy about this. So in other words, if one has love for another person, one doesn't feel competitive, then one has great joy, even joy that goes beyond the measure of one's personal joy. So again, I also gave the example, if someone becomes president, Genda himself will not become president. But then if there's love, there's care for others, then when another person becomes president, he will be able to rejoice in that particular status that this person has attained. Or from the point of view of Buddhism, if another person becomes a Buddha, so if another person attains enlightenment, and one hears about this, one becomes aware of that person having attained this enlightened state, then even though oneself has not become enlightened, but one feels the same joy with regard to the other person having reached that particular state. So in other words, therefore, one experiences joy that goes beyond the measure of one's personal state.
이 가진 소셜 메소드 다 사벌도 그제 컴바트서 메소드 다 인지 소셜 다 차도제나 안고들 다 맞지고도 뒤통지 차도 매버제 제와 쳇비 기침보면에 대지유나 뒤 기부제도 가르쳐 먹어 출루 먹어 차다야도 다 생기 상당다 지기인데 제보도 강준이 수수 때문에 야 수수 욕제 제오라 제 먹어야 되는 데 제사다 전티적으로도 Lovely.
So here Geshe-la gave an example. Now, whether this example really works or not is to be seen, but imagine you live in a house, and then opposite to your house there's another house, but in between there's some empty space. And this empty space belongs to the other person, it doesn't belong to yourself. If now the other person plants, the owner of the house opposite to you, plants beautiful flowers, makes a beautiful garden in that space between your buildings, if you feel competitive, you feel jealous, then it will make you very unhappy to see those flowers. But on the other hand, if you're able to rejoice in that, well, you have a lot of happiness without having to work hard. So without having to plant the seeds, without having to do all the gardening work, you'll be able to enjoy the flowers. So it's like if one has love towards others, then that's the kind of joy one experiences with regard to the success and the happiness of others.
Tatine ngi tiji tongso pege nebo washing batenji ni 지 답하게 가제탄 네버 빼 강에 trading 있는데 이 가시 투비 나로는 되는 미니에 군수자들이 강에도 또 강에 뭐 오스도 제사다 군수배 로만 보나지 아니 땅 말이 탑죠 인자 물린들이 요 말이 있으니 배 세면죠 지도 아니 근데 니 수iten데도 제사다 강에 유비 강나 다 셈된지 제용도 전에 다 셈마지고 슈체로 조샤라 다 셈베디 숑데로다 다얀티 도초지 가리 통레스나 가리 퇴버레스나 앵기마 도지된가 정말은 마치 동원제 있어요 된지 개체를 아니 용시시제 유마 되버지는 용시시 엔티체네 다 용시 가진다 숙청부 티체네 아니 다라 맹강라 가서자 가서 맹강 티체제 디디체네 아니 디디 아니 먼저 정말은 좀 배우고 먼저 고려하다 자가 암지도지 오늘 제가 나서 숙청 쉬어요 그랬어 이내 정말은 무슨 된대기 아니 막기비 나왔다 나서 숙청부 있는데 소화주는 민도 아니 자하드서야 건설 검대하기 때문에 뭐 여러 건설 제가 다 권한 나저거 검지단 지금 인사를 했어 된대 수지 거서
Also something Gela was able to perceive directly. He has two acquaintances and both have a lot of physical problems. They suffer greatly from disease. Geshe-la is saying they really have great problems, both of them. So for many years they suffered from different illnesses. So one time Geshe-la went to see them, he went to visit both of them, and he visited them, and what happened was that on top of the disease that they already experienced, they felt like there was no one who suffered more than them. So on top of the physical problem, there was the mental problem, that kind of unhappiness, that was added to the problem that already existed. So, but from an opposite perspective, some years ago, Geshe-la went to Bodh Gaya to receive the Kala Chakra initiation by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And so His Holiness, again, as I said, he heard this, he saw this, and he heard about this, that at that time, His Holiness got quite sick, seriously ill. His Holiness got seriously ill with a problem of his digestive system. And so he was admitted to hospital. He went to hospital, and the doctors who treated His Holiness, they said, actually, according to the disease His Holiness suffered from, His Holiness would actually in actuality would have a lot of pain, a lot of suffering. But His Holiness didn't seem unhappy, didn't seem to suffer, was very happy, and there was no feeling of unhappiness, there was no sense that His Holiness was unhappiness or suffering, but the opposite. There was a sense of His Holiness was very calm and very happy. And so since in Tibetan, in Indian society, the people are familiar with meditation, there are many meditators in Indian society, so the conclusion was His Holiness must be a yogi who's meditating.
근데 이 책을 쇼르고의 중생디 정말 미치게 제도 송셔를 즉 송수 뒤뒤가나 용시시비 가지 중매에 제가 되게 돈에 되게 미디다 정말 벌라 제벌 쇼르고의 중생디 세부 차이도 그래서는 아니 대 용시시에 대 내가 페빌랑 발이나 디모엔젤이나 같이 도스 페비가다 미교부시티브인데 자 미교 강바에 대해서 야구매 등에 대대 토르부시 다 스프롭 대등에 대대 시부지 뭐부지 신서 디시도 다 메가나 페드잖아요. 다 와다 나나 암지야고 맹아야고 다 되게디 다 나나 같이 그래 세면 인지 숙신고 시부지 계속스 와라나서 배제버지야스 그때서도 제가 검시다 게르는 인지 되게도 다디 세 마숑바 마세 류기나 살에 데스마 디치비스 센티 조나디 슈티 자투고 있을 때세
So the difference between those two, earlier mentioned sick people, and then His Holiness who got sick. Well, the difference became clear when His Holiness later on explained about his own experience when he was admitted to hospital at the time of experiencing that great pain. His Holiness said that as he was driving to the hospital, he was looking outside of the car and he saw these homeless people on the street who looked very miserable, who looked like they had a lot of suffering, so without any houses, without any adequate clothing, food, etc. And then when he arrived in hospital, he felt, oh, I have very good doctors here, I have very good hospital here. What would these people do? What would these homeless people do who are living on the street? How would they be able to deal with a sickness like that? And so, as a result of that, he generated compassion for these homeless people and totally forgot about his own disease. So, therefore, not only does compassion, so in that case it was compassion that helped His Holiness to deal with the disease, in the sense that not only did it not lead to feeling disheartened about it, but not being disheartened about one's own situation, but even His Holiness's physical pain seemed to have disappeared as a result of his compassion.
지난 달에 토대의 미니디 오늘은 도전인의 강의 체와 전부는 빼미서 뭐 여러 이내 그런 사무 현단거 신다기 돌아 닝지 매인서 니도 심지 신다죠 강의 가르치기도 간지다 계시 강의 요래 라바이네 요래 라모도 시사베 돈 강의 제다 tiludi 균이서마 셔거 말아 수저 강의 듣는 것은 용대도 당 하나씩 전부는 매 삼로 리고 디긴 수저 뉴도.
Now, with regard to the two earlier sick people, well, their attitude was that there was no one who had greater problems than themselves. Of course, there are others who have greater problems, but they were not thinking of others. So this is a sign of a lack of compassion. And even if they were to think, oh, others have greater problems, but they're not thinking of those problems in detail to really become aware how many problems there are. So in this situation, they could only see their own problems, and only seeing their own problems added to their problems.
인지 테스트에서 검는 인기 모션 붙이 그 근데 이마치 코로나 강해지 체제 안에 세마티고 차송스 근데 차비가 선로 수르치네 다 심지 신다다 강이 친구 체딩 뭐 보여로 다 되게 들을 셈데 주님에 와지 나 강에 된데 충충 체제라 아마 기부면도 세마티고 제가 지금 왔다 선돼서 전부다 마티고 좀 나셔서
So Geshe-la says he has another acquaintance who meditates meditates a little on compassion, and at some point he experienced a problem, so his mind became unhappy. Should I continue? You can try. You can try. Hello? Yeah. So at that time, when he had experienced a problem, he did get a little discouraged. He felt a little unhappy. But then he remembered the fact that there's so many sentient beings who have so many problems, but he wasn't worrying about those problems in that moment. So he felt very embarrassed. He said it was very embarrassing in that moment. And the moment he felt embarrassed, his feeling of unhappiness was gone.
다티나 신벽에 신체 버진 디 삼로디 공배도 따는데 되게 나바나 신다 수통에 더 이동에 나오지 차로로 이동에 나와도 차는데 수통에 년년생 특별소를 나와셔는데 아니 바저 응면에 수술이 야보다다 연에 매네 수술이 차단디 딘디지 차는데 전에 아니 가와전에 뭐 가와전에 수술이 년년생 기를 저대 수술이 기부디 수술 여러 다디도 저기 거에 독자르샤 미디에 독자르샤 디다에 디치기도 거기에 가는 일기에서 거기에 가는 일기에 님가요리 디상마 디제에서 다 미상마 독자통 미상마 독자통인데 파주도 독자위원회 매네 수지쌤이 미상마 독자통인데 안에 다사지 독자 시부지 기브 레비서를 올라왔다 기브 쌤마 기브를 신차주로 그래서 삼당당이 기브도 다양 상마 야고레신 다당디야 상마 야고레스 아니 디체네 바기야 다당지요라 야 베티코라에 갈라오다 따당지 마신 참아 야구를 했으네요. 그거는 신성다나요. 그걸 보고 되기로 드리게서 돼 말이. 그걸 교회 여부 신신의 양코 이동 통해지요. 어떤지 같이 디다당들 레바 있나 그거에 되게 말이 야 심기부디요.
Likewise, if one increases one's attitude with regard to cherishing others, one increases one's attitude of cherishing others, well then as a result of that, one will see others as endearing, one will see others as attractive and feels close to them. And in that sense, everyone seems like a friend or like a relative. There's a natural feeling of closeness with regard to others. And so whenever one goes somewhere, even if one goes to a different place where one doesn't know anyone, but there's a natural sense of seeing even strangers, of seeing them as attractive or perceiving them as good people, as having positive qualities, etc. So this is how they appear to one's own mind. And the benefit of that is that one experiences more happiness. On the contrary, though, if one perceives others as negative, one sees them as, oh, they harm me, they will harm me, this person will harm me, or they're harmful, they engage in harmful action, this person engages in harmful actions. So one sees everyone as negative. So then again, wherever one goes, there's a sense, oh, this is a terrible place, the people here are just so horrible. So as a result of such an attitude, having this kind of negative attitude, there'll be a lot of unhappiness. But of course, it's not here when we say everyone is great, everyone is wonderful. It seems a little naive in the sense that one, if it's taken to an extreme, then there's this. There's the danger that others deceive one becomes others punching back, etc. So this is not what Genla is talking about. Not about this stupid way of regarding others, but by looking at the right kind of conditions and understanding them by way of an actual understanding, by way of reasoning, then coming to such kind of conclusion. So in that way, if it is based on this realistic and if it's based on reasoning in such a realistic fashion, then neither does one get deceived. Well, on one hand, one doesn't get deceived, and on the other hand, one experiences more happiness. And that's better to say. On one hand, one doesn't become others punching back and ignore it, but also one feels happier.
다 디나 신치기 파게 신진진디 데스 게네 랑데다 마제비 토네 신라지 펜바지 조용데 안 파저들 펜바데 통데 라버도 신용데 되게 내 가당 시부시기에 셈띵나 셈라야 닝도 가서 뽑아다가 제다 셈부시부시데지 다디 파게 딘데 제등에 두서 연구도 스탄 염연구 토네 시기도
Likewise, when one generates some cherishing, when one is able to cherish others to some degree, and then without having any kind of wish to benefit oneself, without having any wish for reward, one sincerely benefits the other person. As a result of that benefit, if one sees that the other person does benefit, has less problems, etc., so then there'll be great joy and delight in being able to help that person successfully. So there's a sense of contentment, there's a sense of satisfaction, there's a sense of self-confidence and happiness upon successfully helping someone without any ulterior motive.
딘디제도 쇼칭고 용거를 기능한테 신의 편바지 좀 파절 편바 통한 이는 디 제와 짠짠 기미버이나 야나 따뜻하대네요 기존 회모 쉬시 시작으로 딘디기이나 제고르세에 바자모 보지 지규라디 딘디기이나 제와 짠짠 기미버이나 같이 따조디 딘디기 계제시다 맹행기 미시기 아니 신의 편바 좀니
So for those who want to practice the Dharma, those who are Dharma practitioners, there's a strong sense of happiness when being able to benefit others. But whether that is merely due to kind-heartedness, or merely due to love, that's to be seen. Because there's also the imprints. There's this habit or the imprint again and again. You have to do this. You have to benefit others. You have to benefit others. And then upon being able to successfully help someone, well, whether the reason for one's happiness and delight is purely love, well, that's to be seen. But for a person who doesn't hold these habits, for just an ordinary person who doesn't have these imprints, these dharmic imprints, well, then for them, the sense of satisfaction upon helping someone without any ulterior motive, so unconditionally benefiting another person, that is definitely out of love or kind-heartedness with regard to that person.
다 지중지마도 뭐좀 배치를 되는 용도 유지를 그게 상대나 맞게 돈의 신의 팬버 주대 같이 용기에 다 지중지마도 뭐좀 배치를 용도 유지로
So all of us actually, to some degree or another, it may be stronger for some, it may be weaker for others, but in general we all have some experience of the satisfaction, of the delight when being able to successfully benefit someone without having any selfish kind of motivation while doing so. So it's a degree of strength or weaknesses that may differ. Other than that, we all have some experience.
그래라 견담 림버 아니 제봉기 기시를 아니 베르쇼디스는 정원하고 정원하 주는 다 가라 잠바 교강강 대비해서 쇼부 있는 권다이네 디제용도 전에다 개발한 정원하 때내 단도 도파야고 송지 권다 공지지 위해서와 디제디 잠바 테스트하고 왔다 인구마도 주면서 다 미션다서 쇼베지 권다지서를 님을 조절로 다 잠바지 늦지나 키온 교강강제 당어 미치니 체스나 양님을 대사지서 되느냐 두마강스가 수디로 다 윤용강의 연주 두마강한테 미상마 동바 교시어 땡이도 제 디디가다 개화라 테스트 사대 인자 다 뒤고 말이 디가라 등이 되는 제인다 미상마 숨쉬시 그래서 이 고라기 거기 치수 아니 디디가다 고라기 쓰는 친구 용어다 아자자 치수에 때문에 되든가 야부제라서 배선 기능이 용되고
So there's in Tibet there was a Tibetan master called Genna Mimpa, who was a geshe from Drepung Muslim monastery. After Tibet lost its freedom, he was imprisoned. He was imprisoned by the Chinese government, and at that time, food they got only very little food. So every morning they got a ladle of tsampa in the morning and a ladle of tsampa in the evening. But again, Lamrimpa, he tried to keep his vows, he tries to keep them really purely and didn't eat after lunch. So then he always had a little bit of tsampa left over because everyone else only got one ladle and they ate it in the morning and in the evening and there was nothing left. And so when the prison wards went by their cells or went past each prisoner, sometimes when they gave too much tsampa, they would take a whole ladle out of the bowl again. So then they didn't even have one ladle left, the other prisoners, and their faces of suffering, it showed on their face, their suffering, that now since they had first been given too much and too much was given away, now they didn't even have one full ladle to eat. And Gendam Rinpa then shared his. He said, don't worry about it, I'll give you mine, and shared it. And so later on, he recounted the sense of satisfaction that he experienced in that moment when practicing generosity, when sharing his samba. But he said even in the moment when he recollected his act of generosity, the sense of joy, the sense of satisfaction that was visible upon recollecting these events.
所以就是老师说，当你今天做这样子一个利他行为的时候，会产生这样子一个让人欢喜的效果。
화장기 총종들이 야 디르기 지지 시에이나 디 베나마 저저이나 다 사회 통해 우리다 참아 빈자다 미션들이 제조샤다르다 수수까지 제시기 제요만 제자다 깔리 제네 차디 가시래 다 누가 다른 거 저거이나 택시를 전화 오면 이제 조샤로 와 맞아 제 상관점이 또다 깔리 제기 제다 되네 아니 택시기 다시 세죠로 the long edited terror. That's the quality of it.
So this is just a small kind of act here, Gila is saying. It's actually quite small, but to give you an example here, so Gila is saying him himself as a monk, so his food, his drink, his money, all this comes from others, so from relatives, from others who give this to him, so he doesn't actually hold a job as such that he gets a salary. And so in order to kind of give something back, so sometimes when he has to go to a faraway place, then instead of taking a taxi, which may cost 100 or 200 rupees, he walks there. And then the money he has saved, he gives to a beggar. So the beggar is kind of very pleased with that, you know, or in the sense, and there's a lot of money that actually goes to the beggar in that moment. So the fact that he's been able to give a lot of money to that beggar, there's definitely some sense of deep satisfaction of having engaged in that practice of generosity.
지사 밖에 신체부 진지 신변 주거에는 수수심 시대대라 아니 편도요바다 아니 가시고래 다 수불에 편도요레스타 때문에 주다 디르레네 라바에면도 다 때문에 주송 뭐 보송되어라 수변나 로기 니시문고기 제 벨기두스 다지진 신에다 어떤지 송구다.
And then, of course, there are all the benefits from the point of view of one's peace of mind. So there's the benefit of experiencing peace of mind when cherishing others. And also on a physical level, there are great benefits. So there's no need of explaining those in more detail. As Holiness usually mentions it from the point of view of one's immune system being strengthened by engaging in the practice of cherishing others.
야 편도 신다지 된지 용서서를 땡기도 다다 다 샤다하고 말이 통사이 롱베 나로라 바이르레다 맞지에 나로라 카시 미잔테스 교보체 미잔 교보체 디지디 아니 보고디기 다 난기 강에디 통치용도 난기 긴고치데 난기 긴고디 내용도 아니 랍자타네 로종 타버다체 레가지 라야기 베진체 디디토나 아니 슈케네 텐전 같이 계산하라고 하라고다. 아니 강조원주 지에다 이 레그메도 초진의 비샤요 말이 초진의 비샤디 디지디. 다 디마임베 다 미지게다 파마도 제로 좀 용이 야부 얘기래. 먼저 니나 종세네. 먼저 미도디 종세네 신에데 파마디게를 좀 요말. 부부디서 랍자타 지고. 제가 디 인도전에 가시에다 총전에 미사 친구 차등이 부망부직 돌아줘도 우리 배우체 아니 우리 배우체 되잖아요 아니 바게 알아 통해 잠잠 디체 아니 로종래 도나시다 말해버체 가지고 주사 아니 양 미사 친구 가시에다 강순이 미신다기 바게 디체 간트레 케미도다 셈을 긴구르디시다 말해버체 난기 긴구르 다 디
in which the children often take responsibility. So their parents oftentimes didn't receive any education, and so very often the children personally take responsibility in the sense that they go to school, they work very hard, and then in order to get a good job in the future, and then to be able to support their family, to help their relatives, to help their parents. Of course, there's very little money that they have in the first place, so there's no real danger that they waste the money and spend it on things that are unnecessary while they receive their education. But basically, also whatever little they have, they use it wisely because they've taken on this responsibility. And then on the other hand, there are also families that are very rich. So in the West, of course, there are probably many parents who are educated and who have an education themselves. But Gena mentions that in Nepal, many families in the villages, the parents are uneducated and only the children receive an education. But there are some exceptions. There are some families that have a lot of money, very rich families. And the children, they are not required to take personal responsibility to look after their parents. And oftentimes they get a lot of money and then they waste the money, they don't go to school, they go all over the place, they go back around places without actually working or studying. They take all sorts of things such as drugs, etc. And so in that way they don't take on any responsibility and instead waste their lives basically, and there's no real positive outcome. So if one were to think, if those children who have a lot of money, who have enough money, whose parents are educated, etc., if they were to use the money wisely, in the sense that use whatever money they need for their personal needs, of course, but then whatever is left over to take responsibility for those who have less, to pay for their food when necessary, for their medical treatment, etc. And then as a result of that, then they will be much happier. So the personal benefit will be much greater. They will experience greater personal benefit as a result of them taking responsibility for those who are in need.
学习能够变好，然后自己身体健康以后不喝酒，然后被人花掉。那其实这样子其实就自立变好。那所以其实就是关在你自己内在的一个，有没有升起对他人，你觉得对他人有责任感这样子一个力量。
天心先这本真用对咱的看最这个新品新奇气度上了当面最个我写的但是种种下着了。 디지털 전에 다디기 네 가리 편도 요르스나 아니 영어로 지금 뭐 찾지 소소 아리기 인기 암지지기 딘들라이도스 가서 인자기비 내스나로 하다데 세네 지라이다 인기에다로 인자가비 가제 어디 나서디 그런 인기 암지레스 딘나서디 미망치와 같이지를 연구도 쓰나 아니 가서 I, my, me, sin chigi shuchimu peshe tangi nidira. Nazadi shuchimu yungu dus, dende jine, ane amjidi lagi dus songso. Chesa di dadu, ane shenjin zin digi di shuchimu tangi inza, ane di nazadi mungo che, ta pendo yuwa chadorwa.
So likewise, with regard to cherishing others, when one cherishes others more, when one engages in the practice of cherishing others, then the sense of I, or the notion of I, gets weaker. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama, one time a cardiologist, a doctor who's responsible for stopping or treating heart attacks or avoiding heart attacks, etc. So a cardiologist, I guess, in called. Right? So, a cardiologist, he once said that a lot of people experience heart attacks, that one of the causes of those heart attacks is the thought I, me, mine. So thinking too much I, me, mine, etc. So that this is one of the causes, or one of the major causes for experiencing heart problems, and that therefore he himself was convinced that he needed to counteract his own kind of self-cherishing attitude in order to stay healthy, in order to avoid heart attacks, and he basically also taught this to others.
제가 다 산지 유송 가시 나올라 된지 소요. 잡아 공부이나 나선 연구래. 잡아 공부이나 체리부 연구래. 이 디카도들 용다 용도 제시디다 바에 세부 소요 말 연구래 소요. 진짜 되지나 다다 임보도 자도로.
So in many of the Buddha's speeches and the Buddha's teachings, one finds this explanation that a person who meditates on love will experience less disease and will have a longer life. So on those occasions, there's not really a specific reason, there are not really reasons presented for why this is the case, but the explanation Gena just gave, well, that suffices for presenting the reasons why one lives longer and has a healthier life.
아니 신기 이동 차그레스 제부 차그레스
And also one will become more attractive with regard to others perceiving oneself. One will become more handsome, more beautiful.
根据英文翻译说的哈，那当你今天会就是这样看的时候，你会让自己看起来更悦意，就是别人会更喜欢你，而且你会看起来更动人这样子。
但这部的你写出了，而且这部写的表达出的讨论的搞不结的写起了，但对了看到的也不因为讲的这部剧，然后拍给的片什么有定的，这个有定的剧呢，拍给的讨论的是什么可能给用的个了，但对这部剧了，但呢的加上那个的。Mother Teresa की बातें थोड़ा हुआ कनंग की तो पे या बुताऊँ तो Mother Teresa जैसा उन्हें जना मुझे चिल्लू चिपा मारे लो शिंशे रे में तो लो चिंबू चिल्ले शे निर्मा युद्ध ची इन्हें ती थोड़ा तो कुरान ते शिंपेंगी ती सेवा दियो इंजा पे या बुताऊँ तो
Of course, there are two types of happiness, two types of beauty here, two types of being handsome or beautiful. One is that one's face is like one's face has a beautiful shape, and there's fragrance, etc. So the color of one's skin is beautiful, etc. And the other one is a kind of beauty that is such that when this person is seen, delight grows in the other person's mind. So again, I gave the example, for example, Mother Teresa. So when you see Mother Teresa, a picture of Mother Teresa, a feeling of happiness arises up on seeing her. So although she is from a different religious system, so she doesn't follow the same religious system we follow, and although she's not young, she's not a young woman, but still, nonetheless, by seeing her, a sense of delight arises, a sense of joy. One likes seeing Mother Teresa in a photograph, and that is due to her activity of working for the benefit of others or cherishing others.
다시 장마수에 속다 뭐부수에 자 파쇼도 이동해 지도 인기로 스스 최대한 팽기면은 뒤쪽 자주로 이내 근데 인도하고 통대에 되게 롱치가는 직대인데 인도 통합니다. 가도다 랑자리 입대 랑자리 좀 통합니다.
So then there's some people who make a great effort to beautify themselves, to clean themselves up, apply makeup, etc. So to do all sorts of things to make themselves look more beautiful. So this is not from the point of view of health here, but just they kind of they have to make an effort to look more beautiful. But then when they get angry, although there's still the same face, it's still the same color in the face, etc., the same fragrance, but it doesn't look beautiful at all. So just upon getting angry, the beauty disappears.
또 전반에 시험으로 지가를 송하셨나? 아니 대다디 정대다 맞지. 니링샤다 매비 제와디 균고 공부이나 셈비 담모시로 자주 그랬어. 셈 담모 차에 디 롱 담모 자주 그랬어. 롱디 담모 차용도 차디 담모 자주 그랬어. 차 담모 차에 디 도디 담모 차용 그랬어. 제보 용당도 직 이순 거. 다디 직전에 더 지지 길. 담모 장마 troubled. 안된다 맞지? 아니 잡아디 야야 고명도 센티 당마차 되게 롱 당마차 되게 차 당마차 되게 도디 당마치
So in one of the sutras, the sutra on the four mindfulnesses, that describes, gives the description of how cherishing others leads to beauty. So the way it's described is that if one engages in activities that are not selfish, in non-selfish activities, then on the basis of that, one's mind becomes more pure, or one's mind becomes healthier. And if that becomes healthier, then the energy winds in the body, they become healthier. If the energy winds in the body become healthier, the blood becomes healthier. And if the blood becomes healthier, one's external appearance becomes healthier or more beautiful.
纯净这样，当你的血变得平顺纯净的时候，你的气色就会看得非常好。
特定的星期个그게 먼저 참말로 제와지나 가부도 제와를 가부 여러 당시 참말로 제와 고구도 미디 무슨 페마토네 아니 콩을 가부 여러 시리 먼저 가부 자기도 미디기 무슨 내 마케네 콩을 막가고 지고래 나도 야 테스 막가고 자기도 뒤를 무슨 참말로 제와 고구어로 왔다.
Likewise, everyone likes to be liked by others, so we all need to be liked. So even if someone doesn't benefit us, if we just know that this person likes us, we feel happier. On the other hand, even though someone doesn't harm us, but if we know that another person doesn't like us, we feel unhappy. So therefore, we all need to be liked by others. We all want to be liked by other people.
신다기 맞춰서 제와제의 고고로 이 고고유디 아니 파제와제나 추제와디 레모라 파제와 다디 신다기 추제와제 고고유나 다디 용액이 타디 다 파제와 지규디냐 지차되어다 파제와메나 추제와디 레토마라.
So if we need love, if we need to be loved by others, well, that can only take place if we give love to others. In order to receive love, we need to give it to others. If we want others to love us, but without giving love back, well, there's just no way to receive others' love. So in that sense, therefore, in order to receive what we really want, we also need to give love to others.
디지디전에 니차시 교화지다 김해지 겸지접은 퇴스 통스 관제 갈래게 됐으나 그냥 이만한 말을 제와지고 다른 말 제와지금이 됐으나 아니 빨리 디자인 때 두자래셔 다 룽때니 제와당의 제와 감식이어 버려 대샤체 거에도 소토부로 와 제와당지 대샤체 제와당의 로봇체도 소토부래디 제와당의 제와제도 탑시 버려 말다 제와제보다 파가보지 인타반 디체나 신의 제와시게 두고를 마도 룽땡 제와 감식이어
So Geshe-la once was witness to a husband and wife arguing with one another. He heard them argue, he saw them argue, and he overheard one of them saying, "Well, in the past you loved me, now you no longer love me. You're not a good person," etc. So this person very angrily accused the others of not loving this person. So then Geshe-la is saying, well, how can you be angry and ask for love? If you want others to love you, by being angry with them, you won't be able to make them love you. The way to make the other person love you is to show love yourself by being kind, by being gentle, etc. Then the other person will love you. But by giving them money or by being angry and shouting, there's no way the other person would love you back. So therefore, it's only by giving love can we receive love.
다디체 데르체 아니 다신체 버스비 토네 디기 수수기 루이 셈르르 차에다 수고레 수술의 펜도 감지시 연구 유명해야 신다든지 숭해요나 야나메나 지호요나 진이지.
So with regard to how else engaging in the practice of benefiting others is more beneficial or benefits oneself, physically as well as mentally, if you can see any other benefits, if you can think of other benefits other than the ones Geshe-la already mentioned, please feel free to share them with everyone. And also, alternatively, if you have any questions, we have time for 1 or 2 questions.
beginning, Genla spoke about two methods for meditation. One was analytical and the other was concentration. It seems that concentration meditation leads to subtler minds which is considered to be stronger. And analytical meditation seems to be more important maybe, but very gross and therefore not very strong. So is there a way to give strength into this more important way of meditation, which is the gross mind of thinking of the benefit of cherishing others?
방기 컨디션이 가르나지 도마지 안에 걔네지 손주 고수지 잠발라지 곰들라 칸이여서 다 곰미나네 찍찍자 곰치 찍찍 조금치 다이나 코란 삼발라베나 조금치 삼발라 조금치 이 드고지 가르스나 샘디도스 차로도야 도시래 다샘 차로도나야 샘 미주 차로도
가르쳐.
뉴도 차로도 뉴도 차로도 레디에네야 자곰디기 펜도 채와이네야 코 락베톤에 내 되게다 직접 공치를 잡아야 샘 락바디게 랑자 되게자 다 문이시는 니가 고유자 다 직접 공치를 초지라다 자공치나다 조인장 개체로 인자 자공디 못는지 이네 샘디한테서 차로줘야 타만 가요 타블라 뭐 차로줘야 다 거스말라 다 차로줘나 샘디도 뉴도 치야죠 그래서 걔들 자공체나 샘디 락바도 랑자 내되게자 다 샘디도 차로당 고는데 차로 쓰고 오는데 정말 쓰고 오는데 근데 다 제공기 통하는식 제마 돈나 안 조금라 직 시라 마체나 야가 인사레스 다시 코라타게 디시케나 시티나 다 같이 도시다 마체나 야사레스 근데 가르기 통하는식
샘 차로 좀 도시에 차로 조당을 기재 못 보러 와. 다 가리 통해 삼당 고에나. 지다 제나 제공 장박이 되기레스 딘디 기재다 말해. 제공 장박 제가 있는 용어 테스트 기로 와. 다 용어 비다고 제라 제조 송태 기지 거래. 지단에 조금 테스트 가서 그래 조금 기타네 테스트면야 샘디 미버지를 내다 디지털에 약간의 채용나 엔체버디 비다고 해도 말아. 딜레도 조금 제나 제공의 변도 예대보다 차이가 조금 제단한테 만들어놔라 그러다.
So with regard to the mind growing subtler, there are different meanings with regard to talking about a subtler types of awareness. Furthermore, in general, just meditating or just engaging in analytical meditation, that in itself is not sufficient. So it needs to also be assisted, because otherwise if only one engages in analytical meditation without much focus, then one's experience, the resultant experience will not be very great. So one needs to combine this in terms of one's preparatory action and one's actual meditation, etc. So there are 3 stages here. One needs to combine it with those different stages. And so in other words here, one needs to also engage in some stabilizing meditation in order to assist one's analytical meditation. However, one should not engage in mistaken type of stabilizing meditation. This is important to refrain from a mistaken way of practicing stabilizing meditation.
안 조금 미세이 되면에 조금 집이가라 간지 도나제 이제 생리 현대 인마 주에다 그래서 도나제 제바이나 코란에 대가란 게슈 얘기했어요.
And if also, instead of focusing much on engaging in stabilizing meditation, so without actually doing formal stabilizing meditation, if instead one engages in analytical meditation, but pays attention to the mind being not too disrupted, as in like going here and there, one tries to keep the mind on the focus, then that can be very beneficial or very potent one's practice of analytical meditation.
제가 숙청부지 등에 또다 변화 된사할 제가 숙청부지 등에 구셔도 저기 다 도저히 된지 삼도 당디 엔페셜로도 있잖아요. 이 기지 큰 고문도 쓰다. 같이 조금 기지 요말.
So, for instance, in the great monasteries, such as in the south, in South India, what they call the 3 pillars, Drepung, Seragandin, some of the monks there who engage in a lot of analytical meditation or a lot of analysis in order to reflect upon, contemplate about certain points, in order to write them down, etc. Sometimes their concentration often is such that they don't perceive anything around them while they're engaging in that analysis, so they don't perceive nothing of what's going on around them.
디마도 신심 차로 줘야지 돈에 따다 베나다 경문을 지지 숨겨야지 니버도 고에게 제도미도 디메나 딘지기 심 차로 줘야 되면은 염용 생입을 끼모되게 제도 요말 대인의 심 차로 줘니 가장 손해들이 심 차로 돈 다디 나기 담는 때부터디 당나기 담는 나기 흉내시비 나오러다 담는 때니 가지 밀럼기 내가 무슨 모션 받지 검투나
So that being the case now with regard to going subtler, to reach subtler levels, well actually in order to engage in effective analytical meditation, it is not actually in this context here necessary to engage in subtler levels. However, of course, as His Holiness explained when we talk about a tantric, from the point of view of the tantric explanations, as it is described in the tantric scriptures, it is preferable to reach those kind of subtle states of mind, as His Holiness explains. So, for instance, when you're dreaming. So when you're dreaming, you're aware that you are dreaming, you engage in lucid dreaming, and then you use your dreams in order to practice. So utilizing these subtle types of awarenesses, such as dream consciousnesses, that is explained to be very beneficial.
이세 양아기 담는 마때네 니무야양 공댕이지나 밀람레 딜레무로 니무 총자냐 자댕이 밀람다 총제 따는 거로 디나시 니무 잡아자냐 공대나 밀람레 잡아 공무로 이게 뱅기로다 지버로.
But in order to have that kind of potency, well, if you're someone who during the day meditates a lot on love and compassion, that will naturally enter your dreams. You will naturally dream about this. Just as a salesperson naturally dreams about their business.
somdan에 디체바이나 기시 신체 버진이 신기 긴굴지 되바이나 다음을 가지고 좀 돌아다야들라 기시 유여바이네 동결지 유여바이네 밖에 가시 사야명이 그시 메지지 디명에 디니스도 통도 디게들 긴굴지 되용도 기시 배샤타나 혼술 대쇼그레 선바들 되용도 가지고 좀 돌아야들이 말로 수주 건강심이 최대 로종체 디드 단계레데 밖에 가지고 좀 돌아야들 말레 되잖아요. 아니 미래 패바 마세 대단한 수술로지 야모차 수술 알아 통계 담아내 다 통계 된대기 견도 좀 명예차 디지디스는 수술 최대는 팬딩 차로로 다 되나 수술 팬로다.
So another benefit in a personal